Counselor Faxver moved through the abandoned human archive with careful steps, his crystalline form casting prismatic reflections across the dust-covered consoles. 2 centuries of emptiness had turned New Eden's primary observatory into something between a museum and a tomb. The environmental systems still functioned perfectly, typical human redundancy that had outlasted the creators themselves. Peculiar species, he murmured to himself, brushing away dust from a terminal with 4 elongated fingers, so adaptable, yet so completely gone. His research assistant, a young Lumidian named Kess, hovered near the doorway, clearly uncomfortable. Counselor, the transport leaves in 40 minutes. The Council expects your quarterly assessment by tomorrow's cycle. Faxver waved dismissively, his attention fixed on the terminal as it hummed to life. 200 years of investigation, and still no conclusive explanation for their disappearance. Don't you find that troubling? Yes. The historical record is clear, sir. The human defense systems detected the harvester approach, and they attempted evacuation. They simply didn't make it. Kesh shifted uneasily, like countless species before them. Faxver's crystalline fingers danced across the interface, bypassing security protocols that had become familiar over decades of research. And yet we found empty colonies, abandoned ships. No signs of battle or destruction or mass graves. Just absence. The screen flickered, displaying a corrupted log entry Faxver had never seen before. A human woman in a military uniform appeared, her face tense but determined. The timestamp indicated this was recorded just days before the final human communications ceased. Contingency protocols activated. Phase 1 complete. The Council want. Static interrupted briefly. Confirmed trajectory places Harvester Fleet arrival in 16 days. If Commander Ray's calculations are correct, they'll never find us in The message cut to static. Faxver leaned forward, adjusting parameters, but the remainder was unrecoverable. Kess, did you hear that? They'll never find us. Not, we can't escape them, or we're doomed. This suggests. He trailed off, his mind racing through implications. Sir, with respect, you've been chasing human ghosts for decades. The Arcadian Council has moved on. We've built the Concordat on the foundation of their former territories. Perhaps it's time to. A soft chime from Faxver's personal scanner interrupted Kess. The counselor checked the alert, his crystalline features hardening into sharp angles, a Lumidian expression of surprise. Automated perimeter alert, he said softly. Motion detected in Section 42, Eastern Storage Archives. Impossible. Those sections were sealed after initial recovery operations. No one has been there in centuries. Faxver moved with unexpected speed for his species, crossing the room to access the security system. No authorized entry. No alarms triggered. But something moved enough to activate the motion sensors. The security feed showed only empty corridors, shadows stretching across abandoned human equipment. Faxver magnified a section of the floor, focusing on a disturbance in the dust. Footprints, he whispered. Fresh ones. Kess moved closer despite himself. Could be maintenance droids. Bikedal. Too narrow for Jorgian workers, too wide for Qualary inspectors. Faxver's voice dropped. They're human boot prints, Kess. A distant metallic sound echoed through the observatory corridors. Both Lumidians froze. Sir, we should contact security. Faxver held up his hand for silence, listening. The environmental systems hummed steadily, but underneath that familiar sound was something else. The faintest rhythm of movement, purposeful and controlled. After 2 centuries, Faxver said softly, I believe we're no longer alone in this observatory. Outside in the darkness beyond New Eden's atmosphere, a small vessel detached from the observatory's shadow, its stealth systems activating as it slipped away. Inside, a figure in sealed armor transmitted a simple encrypted message. Archive accessed. Proceeding to Phase 2. Commander Zella's tail lashed against the metal flooring as she crouched to examine the machinery. The mining facility on Prometheus 4 had been stripped with surgical precision. Not random piracy, but targeted extraction. Her scaled fingers traced the clean cuts where valuable components had been removed. "Fascinating technique," she muttered. "No plasma scaring, no molecular disruption." Her science officer Kef drifted closer, his translucent quallery body pulsing with analytical patterns. Being essentially a sentient gas contained within a semi-permeable membrane had its advantages in investigation. He could perceive microscopic details others missed. "Commander, observe these tool marks," Kef said, his voice resonating from his central communication node. "The molecular signature matches human manufacturing techniques, specifically their quantum edge tools." Zilla's vertical pupils narrowed. "Impossible. Salvaged equipment, perhaps." "Unlikely. These marks are recent, within hours. And look here." Kef extended a gaseous tendril toward a hidden alcove behind a power junction. Zilla moved the heavy conduit aside, revealing a small workspace that had been carefully concealed. A mug sat behind it, containing a dark liquid that still emitted wisps of steam. "What is this?" she asked, sniffing cautiously. "Coffee, a human stimulant beverage. Still warm." Kef's body pulsed with excitement. "Commander, someone was here less than 30 minutes ago." Zilla's communicator chimed, displaying a message from Concordat headquarters. Another facility had been hit, the 5th this cycle. Whatever was happening, it was accelerating. "The Council insists these are pirates using salvage technology," she said, photographing the scene. "But pirates don't leave behind engineering calculations." She gestured to sketches and numbers scrawled on a portable screen left behind. The equations described quantum field manipulations beyond current Concordat science. "This matches the pattern from the observatory incident," Kef observed. Counselor Thaxfer reported similar anomalies before his transmission was cut off. Zella frowned. The crystalline counselor had gone silent after reporting potential evidence of human activity. The official story claimed he suffered a stress fracture, a common Lumidian ailment. But Zella's instincts said otherwise. "Let's see what else our mysterious visitors left behind." They moved deeper into the facility, following a trail of subtle disturbances. In the central processing chamber, Zella discovered a maintenance panel slightly ajar. Behind it lay a small room that didn't appear on any facility schematics. A hidden workspace. She breathed, entering cautiously. The walls displayed holographic maps of Concordat space, with specific locations marked in a countdown pattern. Mining facilities, observatories, communication relays, all recently reporting thefts or unexplained malfunctions. These aren't random attacks, Zilla realized. They're gathering components for something specific. Kef expanded his gaseous form to analyze residual DNA traces in the room. "Commander, I'm detecting genetic markers consistent with human baseline, but modified somehow." A soft click from the entrance made both officers freeze. The door had sealed itself, and the facility's lights dimmed to emergency levels. Screens around them flickered to life simultaneously, displaying a countdown timer. "Evacuation protocol activated," announced the facility's eye. 3 minutes to containment purge. "Override. Security authorization Zella 7 Gamma." She barked, but the system remained unresponsive. "It's not recognizing Concordat commands," Kef said, his form condensing with anxiety. Someone rewrote the core protocols. Zilla's combat training kicked in. "Find another exit. I'll download what I can." As she connected to the terminal, the holographic display changed, revealing a message that made her scales prickle with unease. "The remnant reclaims what was taken." Outside, a sleek vessel detached from the mining facility's docking clamps, accelerating silently into the darkness, carrying salvaged components and leaving behind questions that were beginning to form a troubling pattern across the stars. The massive asteroid called Haven hung silently in the darkness between stars, its exterior rough and unremarkable. Just another space rock drifting through an unmarked region of the Sagittarius Arm. No Concordat patrol had ventured this deep into the stellar wilderness in decades. Nothing of value existed here, or so they believed. Commander Alina Reyes stood at the central operations table, her neural implants connecting her directly to Haven systems. Holographic displays surrounded her, showing the status of the fleet and recently acquired components. The blue light illuminated the subtle circuitry visible beneath her skin, the mark of the first generation born in exile, enhanced from conception to survive in a universe that had left humanity for dead. "The observatory data is conclusive," she said to the assembled officers. "The Harvester Vanguard has altered course. They're circling back toward inhabited space after 2 centuries. Captain Mercer, her second-in-command, studied the projected flight path. Their new trajectory takes them directly through the Concordat's outer colonies. New Gaia will be first." 16 billion civilians, Alina noted, none aware of what's coming. "Not our problem," said Director Chen from Engineering. 200 years ago, the Arcadian Council detected the Harvester's approach and deliberately redirected them toward human space. They sacrificed us to save themselves. Alina's enhanced eyes, capable of perceiving spectrums beyond typical human range, focused on the holographic display showing the components recently acquired from Prometheus 4. And yet here we stand, while they remain ignorant of the true threat. The command center had been carved from the asteroid's heart 2 centuries earlier, when the desperate human exodus fled secretly into uncharted space. What began as a temporary shelter had evolved into a thriving civilization, a hollowed-out world housing the last million humans in the galaxy. "The Reclamation Initiative remains our priority," reminded Admiral Santos, the oldest present, one of the few who remembered Earth firsthand. "We've spent generations preparing. The components secured from the mining facility complete the primary resonance array." "And the Dark Star Matrix?" Alina asked. On cue, the doors slid open as Chief Engineer Shurish entered, fatigue evident on his face but excitement in his eyes. "Final calibration complete, Commander. The prototype just passed all testing parameters." A ripple of tension passed through the room. 2 centuries of research, development, and sacrifice had led to this moment. "Show me," Alina ordered. The central display changed to show a hexagonal device, deceptively small for its importance. The Dark Star Matrix represented humanity's answer to both the Harvester threat and potential Concordat aggression, a technology developed in isolation that no other species possessed. "With this, we can disrupt the Harvester hive mind connection," Shurish explained. "It exploits the quantum entanglement they use for coordination. Without it, they're just individual predators, not a collective intelligence." Alina touched the display, rotating the image. "And the power requirements. Significant, but within our capabilities now that we have the resonance components." The assembled officers exchanged glances. The moment they had prepared for across generations had arrived. "Prepare the Ghost Fleet," Alina ordered. "We've hidden long enough. Captain Mercer, inform our agent to proceed with first contact protocols. It's time the Concordat learned that humanity didn't perish. We evolved." Throughout the asteroid, lights activated in long-dormant hangars, sleek vessels, incorporating centuries of isolated innovation, hummed to life. On their hulls, the emblem of Earth Unified Command had been modified with a single word beneath: Remnant. Deep within Haven's engineering section, the Dark Star Matrix began to pulse with energy, its quantum field stretching outward like invisible fingers, searching for the distinctive signature of the approaching harvesters, and finding it. The Concordat science vessel Luminous Inquiry drifted through the Amber Nebula, its sensors mapping the unusual radiation patterns at the border of charted space. Captain Vrex, a veteran Jorvian with mottled gray skin and 6 eyes arranged in a circle around his elongated head, studied the anomalous readings with growing concern. "Interference patterns increasing, Captain," reported his navigation officer. "Something's disrupting our long-range scanners." Vrex was about to order a course adjustment when the ship's proximity alarms blared. A vessel had appeared directly in their path, emerging from what seemed to be empty space without warning. The viewing screen magnified the image, revealing a sleek black hull of unfamiliar design bearing a faded but unmistakable emblem. The Earth Unified Command insignia, modified with a word beneath it. Remnant. Vrex read aloud, his voice barely audible over the sudden silence on the bridge. Impossible, whispered his first officer. Humans have been extinct for 2 centuries. The communication system activated without their input, overriding security protocols as if they didn't exist. A human face appeared on screen, a man with calm eyes and subtle circuitry visible at his temples. This is Captain Marcus Chen of the Earth remnant vessel Shadowdrift, he stated without preamble. We mean you no harm, but we need to speak regarding a matter of galactic security. Vrex fought to maintain his composure. This is Captain Vrex of the Concordat vessel Luminous Inquiry. You claim to be human. Explain yourself immediately. Marcus's expression remained neutral. We need to talk about the harvesters, Captain. They're returning to Concordat space, and you're unprepared. The harvesters are a myth, Vrex replied automatically, repeating the official Concordat position. A story invented to explain the disappearance of humanity. Marcus finished. Interesting theory, considering we're having this conversation. A data packet transferred to the Concordat ship's computer. Despite the security officer's protests, Vrex opened it, displaying long-range sensor readings showing massive objects moving at superluminal speeds toward Concordat territory. This can't be verified, Vrex said, but uncertainty crept into his voice. I'm prepared to come aboard with proof, Marcus offered. Just myself, unarmed. Scan me however you wish. Across the galaxy, Commander Zella's investigation submarine breached the methane seas of Tarnus Prime. After barely escaping the mining facility trap, she had followed a trail of encrypted communications to this remote outpost, one of the oldest Concordat installations, established shortly after the human disappearance. The facility appeared abandoned, its corridors dark and systems powered down to minimal levels. Kef's translucent form provided the only illumination as they moved deeper into the archive section. These terminals haven't been accessed in decades, Kef observed, his gaseous body pulsing with analytical patterns. Zila's instincts told her otherwise. Check for physical storage, something not connected to networks. In a forgotten maintenance closet, they discovered an old data core, physical technology considered obsolete by modern Concordat standards. Zila connected a portable power source, and ancient holographic footage flickered to life. The recording showed a younger Thaxver and other council members in heated debate. The timestamp indicated it was from 2 centuries ago. The Harvester fleet approaches from the Galactic Rim, a Qualary counselor stated. Their trajectory will bring them through Sector 17. Human space, Thaxver noted. Another counselor, a Georgian, spoke coldly. If we adjust the quantum beacons in Sector 14, we can redirect their path more directly through human territories. It would spare our core worlds entirely. You're suggesting we sacrifice an entire species? Thaxver asked. A young species, barely unified, with limited interstellar capability, the Jorvian replied. Against our 8-species alliance with centuries of development. The mathematics is clear. The recording ended with a vote tally. 6-1 in favor. Only Thaxver had opposed. Zila stood in stunned silence, her scales paling with shock. They knew. They deliberately redirected the harvesters toward human space, and then divided human territories among themselves afterward, Kef added, while claiming humans were simply overtaken by a mythical threat. Zila's communicator chimed with an urgent message. A human vessel had made contact with a Concordat science ship. After 2 centuries of absence, humanity had returned. The Arcadian Council chambers had never witnessed such chaos. Representatives from 7 species shouted over one another, their voices echoing off the vaulted ceiling of the ancient chamber. The emergency session had been called within hours of the Luminous Inquiry's report of human contact. Counselor Faxwer, recently returned from his supposed medical leave, stood at the center dais. His crystalline form showed stress fractures, not from illness as officially reported, but from his forcible detention after the observatory incident. "Order," he called, his voice amplified by the chamber's acoustics. "We must address this development with clarity." A Jorvian representative pushed forward. Humanity cannot simply reappear after 2 centuries and make these outlandish claims about harvesters. This is clearly an elaborate deception. "For what purpose?" asked a Qualari diplomat, her gaseous form swirling with agitation patterns. What would they gain by revealing themselves now, after hiding for generations? Holographic displays showed the human vessel in orbit around the Concordat diplomatic station. Captain Marcus Chen had agreed to limited scans that confirmed his human biology, along with substantial modifications that puzzled Concordat scientists. While the Council argued, Alina Reyes and her infiltration team moved silently through the shadow corridors beneath the Council archives. Their adaptive camouflage, a technology developed during humanity's exile, rendered them nearly invisible to standard security systems. 14 minutes until security rotation, whispered Lieutenant Park, her neural implants monitoring the building's security patterns. Alina nodded, her enhanced eyes perceiving spectrums beyond normal vision, revealing hidden security measures. The historical records should be in the next section. Pre-digital storage, according to our intelligence. They bypassed 3 layers of security before reaching a chamber containing physical data crystals, the Concordat's most sensitive information, deliberately kept offline to prevent network intrusion. "Found it," said Park, extracting a specific crystal labeled Harvester Incident, Human Extinction. Elena inserted the crystal into a specialized reader. What they downloaded confirmed their worst fears: comprehensive records of the Council detecting the Harvester approach, the deliberate decision to sacrifice humanity, and the subsequent division of human territories among themselves. Elena's expression remained neutral, but her vitals spiked, detected instantly by Park through their linked systems. "Commander," Park asked. "We've suspected this for 2 centuries," Elena replied softly. "Now we have confirmation. On a secure quantum channel impossible for Concordat technology to detect," Elena transmitted to Marcus. "We have verification. Execute Phase 2. In the Council chambers, Marcus stood calmly before the assembled representatives. His formal jacket concealed little of the neural interface circuitry that lined his arms and neck, technology no present species had ever encountered. "While you debated," he said, his voice carrying through the now silent room, "my colleagues accessed your sealed archives." Gasps and protests erupted, but Marcus continued steadily. 200 years ago, your Council detected the approach of the Harvester fleet. Rather than warn us or offer alliance, you adjusted your quantum beacons to redirect their path directly through human space. "Preposterous," shouted the Jorvian representative. Marcus removed his formal jacket entirely, revealing arms lined with intricate circuitry that pulsed with energy. "While you thought us dead, we transformed ourselves into something new." He activated a holographic projector that displayed the exact files Elena had just recovered. Council meeting minutes, technical specifications of the beacon adjustments, and the subsequent resource allocation agreements dividing human territories. "Humanity didn't die," Marcus said, his enhanced eyes scanning the stunned faces around him. "We evolved in exile, preparing for this moment. And now the harvesters are returning, this time on a trajectory toward your worlds." The chamber erupted into pandemonium as security forces moved toward Marcus. He made no move to resist, but smiled faintly as the lights throughout the Council building suddenly failed, plunging the representatives into darkness. When emergency systems activated 30 seconds later, Marcus was gone. Haven pulsed with activity unlike anything seen in generations. Massive hangar doors slid open throughout the asteroid's interior, revealing ships that incorporated 2 centuries of isolated human innovation. The fleet stood ready, each vessel equipped with technologies developed far from the constraints of Concordat scientific orthodoxy. In the central command hub carved from the asteroid's heart, Elena faced resistance from the Preservation Committee. The 7-member civilian oversight body had guided human policy since the Exodus. "Our priority must be human worlds only," argued Director Sato, the committee's senior member. His weathered face showed the subtle marks of first-generation enhancements. "We have the coordinates of every former human colony. Our people deserve to reclaim their heritage first." Elena projected the latest sensor data onto the strategic display. "A Harvester Vanguard will reach New Gaia in 48 hours. 16 billion civilians who don't know the danger exists." "Concordat civilians," emphasized Director Weiss. "Let their council deal with the consequences of their betrayal." The debate intensified as tactical officers updated fleet deployment scenarios. 2 centuries of planning now compressed into hours of urgent decision-making. "The Dark Star Matrix has limitations," reminded Chief Engineer Shurish. "Its effective range covers either our reclamation fleet or a defensive position at New Gaia, not both simultaneously." A movement at the command center's entrance drew attention. Marcus had returned, but not alone. Commander Zella stood beside him, her scaled form drawing suspicious stares from the assembled humans. Behind them, restrained by security personnel, Counselor Thaxver observed everything with crystalline eyes that reflected the command center's blue lighting. "You brought aliens to Haven." Director Sato's voice cracked with outrage. "Our location has remained secret for 2 centuries." "They came willingly," Marcus replied calmly, "and with information we need." Elena approached the visitors, her enhanced vision analyzing their biological signatures. "Why should we trust representatives of the civilization that sacrificed us?" Zilla's compound eyes met Elena's modified ones without flinching. "My people will die without your help," she stated simply. "Yet you developed all this instead of seeking revenge. Why?" The question hung in the air, challenging the assembled human leadership. "Because survival wasn't enough," Elena finally answered. "We needed to become better than those who abandoned us." She turned to Thaxper. "Your message fragment from the observatory. I want to hear what you discovered." The crystalline counselor straightened. "I found evidence suggesting humanity's disappearance was planned, not a catastrophe. I've spent decades searching for the truth about what happened to your species." He was the only council member who voted against redirecting the harvesters, Zila added. "The recording we found confirms it." Tactical displays updated with new information from Zella's data core, detailed Concordat defense capabilities, vulnerabilities, and population centers in the harvester's path. "The Concordat defenses cannot stop them," Thaxver said quietly. "We've grown complacent, believing the harvesters were merely a convenient myth to explain humanity's disappearance." Director Sato stepped forward. "This changes nothing. Our responsibility is to our own people first." "And what exactly are we now, Director?" Elena challenged, gesturing toward her own enhanced form. "We've spent 2 centuries becoming something new, neither fully human as we once were, nor machines. We modified ourselves, integrated with our technology, evolved our biology." She walked to the strategic display and expanded the galactic view. "If we reclaim only what was ours while allowing billions to die, what was the point of our evolution? To become just like those who betrayed us." Throughout Haven, the fleet waited for its orders, to rush to the defense of former enemies, or to watch from the shadows as history repeated itself. Unbeknownst to the debating leaders, a stealth probe from Thaxver's ship captured every word, transmitting back to a council now facing not only the return of humanity, but also the approach of a threat they had long denied even existed. New Gaia burned as the first wave of harvester vessels descended through its atmosphere. Their crystalline ships, each nearly a kilometer long, sliced through defensive lines as if they were made of paper. Concordat vessels, despite their advanced technology, crumpled under the assault of weapons they had never encountered before. In the planetary capital's evacuation center, Governor Lassick watched with despair as casualty reports flooded in from across the continent. A Qualeri like Kef, his gaseous form roiled with stress patterns. "Launch the final civilian shuttles," he ordered. "Military vessels will provide cover for as long as possible." Izaid's voice trembled. "Sir, the orbital defense grid has failed. Nothing is getting through the Harvester blockade." A strange silence fell over the command center. The ambient noise of battle abruptly diminished, replaced by a peculiar sound, a deep resonance that seemed to vibrate through the structure itself. On the monitoring screens, space itself appeared to tear open in multiple locations around the planet. Through these rifts emerged a fleet of ships unlike anything in Concordat records. Hundreds of vessels moving in perfect coordination, their hulls dark against the stars yet outlined with pulsing blue energy signatures. "What now?" whispered the governor. His answer came as communication systems activated automatically. "This is Commander Elena Reyes of the Human Remnant Fleet," announced a calm voice. "Evacuate your people to the designated safe zones. We will handle the harvesters." From the command deck of the flagship Defiance, Elena watched as the Dark Star Matrix activated, sending ripples of quantum energy that disrupted the Harvester Hive connection. The massive device, now fully operational after 2 centuries of development, targeted the unique frequency the Harvesters used for coordination. "Matrix at full power," reported Lieutenant Park. "Harvester command signals are fragmenting." On tactical displays, the effect was immediate. The previously organized Harvester assault broke into chaotic individual actions as their shared consciousness dissolved. "Deploy ground teams to evacuation centers," Elena ordered. "Priority is civilian protection." Drop ships launched from the human fleet, carrying teams of enhanced soldiers. Elena transferred command to Marcus and boarded the last vessel, determined to lead the ground operation herself. Her dropship cut through the atmosphere, avoiding Harvester stragglers now fighting as individual predators rather than a collective. Below, the capital city burned, its elegant architecture crumbling under the assault. The ship landed in a public square now serving as an emergency gathering point. Thousands of civilians from multiple Concordat species huddled together, watching in confusion as human soldiers emerged from the vessels. Elena approached a group of children trapped beneath a collapsed support beam. The young Jorvians stared with their multiple eyes as she gripped the massive column, a weight that would require 3 Concordat exosuits to lift. Her enhanced physiology handled the strain, augmented muscles, and reinforced skeletal structure, allowing her to move the debris aside. Throughout the city, similar scenes unfolded as human teams deployed. Their neural-linked combat systems allowed them to predict and counter Harvester movements with uncanny precision. Evacuation routes cleared rapidly under their protection. A child tugged at Elena's tactical suit. "Are you from the old stories?" the young Jorvian asked. "The humans who disappeared." Before she could answer, the ground shook as Arcadian reinforcements finally arrived. Hours after the initial distress call, their vessels entered atmosphere cautiously, weapon systems active but hesitating when they encountered human ships already in control of the airspace. From orbit, Faxver watched the operation unfold. His crystalline fingers moved across a communication panel, broadcasting on all Concordat frequencies. "For 2 centuries, we have lived on stolen time. Time purchased with human lives. Today, those we betrayed have returned not to seek vengeance, but to prevent us from suffering their fate. Let history record this moment when humanity reclaimed not just their place among the stars, but their honor." On the surface below, Elena stood amid the ruins of a city saved by those who had once been abandoned to die. The human fleet controlled the skies, and for the first time in 2 centuries, the Earth Unified Command insignia flew openly under alien suns. The newly formed Galactic Assembly convened in orbit around Haven, now revealed to all as humanity's hidden stronghold. The massive habitat had emerged from obscurity, its exterior shell peeled back to reveal the thriving civilization within. Through observation ports, species representatives marveled at the extensive construction projects visible throughout the asteroid, evidence of human ingenuity developed in isolation. In the grand chamber carved from Haven's core, Delegates from 17 worlds gathered where once only humans walked. The Concordat had fractured in the weeks following the Battle of New Gaia, with many species seeking alliance with humanity against those who had orchestrated the original betrayal. Marcus stood at the central podium, his diplomatic role balanced against Alina's military authority. Together, they represented the dual approach that had guided humanity's return. 2 centuries ago, Marcus began, humanity faced extinction at the hands of the harvesters, a threat deliberately directed toward our worlds by those who should have stood as allies. Murmurs spread through the assembled delegates. The evidence HFY had broadcast could not be denied, forcing a reckoning throughout civilized space. We could have remained hidden, Marcus continued. We could have watched as the same fate befell those who abandoned us. Instead, we chose a different path. He activated a holographic display showing the complete harvester migration patterns mapped over centuries by human deep space observers. The harvesters are not defeated, merely repelled. They will return in greater numbers, as they have done in cycles spanning millions of years. Their biology compels them to harvest advanced technological civilizations to fuel their reproduction. The display shifted to show the specifications of the dark star matrix. This technology disrupts their hive connection, but it is only the beginning of what we must develop together. Evolution demands adaptation through connection, not isolation. Across the chamber, HFY rose from his seat among the reformed Lumidian delegation. Humanity has shown us the meaning of true civilization, the crystalline counselor stated. When faced with the opportunity for justified vengeance, they chose to save billions of lives instead. As the assembly continued its deliberations, Commander Zila walked with Alina through Haven's agricultural ring, where genetically modified plants grew in carefully managed ecosystems. Your people achieved more in isolation than the Concordat did with all its resources, Zila observed. Why reveal yourselves now? You could have remained hidden, safe from potential threats. Alina paused beside a viewing port overlooking the massive shipyards, where human vessels prepared for deployment throughout former territories. The same reason we chose to defend New Gaia, she answered. Isolation leads to stagnation eventually. Despite everything your council did, we recognize that connection, even with former enemies, offers more potential than eternal separation. Zila's scaled tail twitched thoughtfully. And the territories? The former human colonies. We'll reclaim them, Alina said simply, but not through conquest, through partnership where possible and rightful inheritance where necessary. The 2 commanders, once representatives of civilizations separated by betrayal, now stood as architects of a new alliance. Deep within Haven, beyond even the assembly's access, Alina entered a restricted section where only the highest human leadership was permitted. Chief Engineer Shurish waited at a massive observation window overlooking a project known only to a select few. Project Ascension is ahead of schedule, he reported. The activation sequence can begin within months rather than years. Alina placed her hand on the observation glass, looking at the massive construction that represented humanity's next evolutionary step. Not merely machines, not merely enhanced biology, but something transcending both. A synthesis developed through centuries of necessity and vision. The harvesters will return, she said quietly. And when they do, humanity will be ready, not just to defend, but to advance. Beyond the window, thousands of engineers worked on a structure that pulsed with quantum energy, technology beyond anything the Concordat had ever imagined. Not a weapon, but a gateway to something beyond. 2 centuries ago, they believed humans were gone, Alina said. Now they know we've reclaimed our space. Soon, they'll understand we intend to transform it. Throughout the galaxy, human ships established outposts along the galactic rim, their presence a statement and a promise. Humanity had returned from the edge of extinction, not with vengeance, but with vision. Not merely to reclaim what was lost, but to create something entirely new among the stars.